Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Amit Dang, the founder and CEO of Marksman Healthcare. And today I'm thrilled to kick off our very first episode of Candid Conversations on Medical and Pharma Evolution with none other than Dr. Vikram Singh. He's a seasoned leader in medical affairs and pharmaceutical strategy and brings a wealth of experience from top global organizations shaping innovations in healthcare, evidence generation, and medical excellence. With his deep expertise in the market access, digital transformation, and strategic leadership, today's discussion promises to be insightful, thought provoking, as well as inspiring. Welcome, Dr. Vikram Singh. How are you doing?
All well, and thank you, Dr. Amit, for such kind introduction. Thank you very much.
So, Dr. Vikram, your career spans multiple leadership roles in top pharmaceutical companies. So, could you share your journey and what inspired you to actually enter into the field of medical affairs?
So, Amit, I did my post-graduation in internal medicine from Maulana Azad Medical College, and I intended to practice. I actually practiced for around a year in a tertiary care hospital in private sector, but I was not really enjoying what I was doing for various reasons. I was 26 at that stage, and I was still in the process of identifying my calling. Joining biopharma industry was more of an experiment at that stage, and it took me around 3 to 4 years to realize that this was indeed what I was enjoying and I wanted to do. So that's the time I committed myself to this industry, and ever since then, I'm really thoroughly enjoying what I'm doing. Our industry is the most significant part of a complex ecosystem that equips frontline healthcare professionals to deliver the care to patients. So it's a very important role that we play as an industry and as medical affairs within the industry.
It is so much relatable because I still remembered while I did my internship in Goa Medical College, I could not relate to the clinical practice. And I was like, I got to do something with the corporate world. And that's how the whole journey of myself started as well. So the next question, having worked across an EEMEA, how has your global experience shaped your perspective on key healthcare challenges and solutions?
So with most of my experience has been in emerging markets. That's in countries where healthcare delivery system is a mix of public and private. Public being relatively substandard and inefficient, and private, while offers high quality, it's only partially reimbursed at best. As we can guess that such a system by design breeds inequity in access to quality and standardized healthcare. Just to explain my point, if you look at such countries that I just described, it accounts for around 70% of global population, a still higher percentage of disease burden, but a very tiny proportion of industry business. Even if you look within individual countries, there are different population subsegments. Those who are from a higher socioeconomic strata can access very quality healthcare, whereas those from lower socioeconomic substrata are grossly underserved. And I would say this is the biggest and most complex challenges all stakeholders in the healthcare sector face today across, including biopharma industry. Fortunately, there is an awareness, there is a strong intent to address this, even though we have been struggling. And the new corporate governance parameters, for example, access to medicine index, which most of the top biopharma industry incorporated their scorecard, encourages us, pushes us to invest more efforts in solving this challenge. And I believe that with the advent of technology tools, digital technology tools, this will only become easier. But I must say we have a very long distance to cover here.
And that's true. And I'm pretty hopeful that the way even the government takes up the initiative like Ayushman Bharat, and now they are trying to get the middle class as well as into it. So somewhere we should be hopefully able to take care of the equity challenges that India is facing. Now, as the head of EEMEA Medical Affairs Center of Excellence at MSD right now, how are you building an efficient and technology-driven medical affairs, as you mentioned about the digital technology? So can you share any key initiatives that you are particularly proud of?
Yeah. So the team that I'm heading, COE in Medical Affairs in EMEA, actually had the mandate of driving operational efficiency. So that was the mandate when we set this team or build this team up. We have been doing it over past, I would say, close to 5 years now, driving efficiency through a mix of four approaches. Streamlining of activities. There is lots of scope for driving efficiency purely by streamlining. harmonizing practices. Various countries within the region had different way of doing the same thing, so we are harmonizing it, digitalizing slash automating various operational tasks and administrative tasks. And last bit is outsourcing. And I must say that with the combination of these four, we have been able to increase our efficiency by more than 200%. So
Amazing.
which is fantastic. And this allows us to minimize the administrative and operational workload of the scientific team, the medical team. And in turn, medical team can now do more high value adding activities, customer facing activities, core scientific
Absolutely.
activities. And so that has been our approach. And you talked about differentiation, Amit. For me, differentiation is in the eyes of scientific leaders. It is how scientific leaders should see us. And our focus has to be more and more become customer centric, which is something we're still trying to do, but I would say only with limited success. Most of the big pharmas are seen in the same light by scientific leaders. And the last part of your question was related to initiatives. So I don't think I can talk about initiative because some of this is proprietary and sensitive. But
Right, right.
I'll
I get it.
talk about the pride that I take in building this highly diverse and inclusive team from scratch starting 2021. And this
Amazing.
team continues to grow in size, scope, knowledge, skills, experiences, team spirit, diversity, etc. So I'm very proud of this team, I can say.
It's absolutely logical, I would say, to outsource few of the medical affairs functions. Rather, there's a lot of discussion going on how much to outsource the MSL functions because eventually, and the face of the company in front of KOLs has to be the medical affairs department. So there are a lot of operational things and a few other aspects that can be outsourced. Rather recently, we just came up with this concept of Med Archer, where we just kind of, created a subscription based medical affairs functions. So I can totally understand that you started off way before when we thought of actually. So now leading teams across diverse markets presents unique challenges. So how do you develop and manage these high performing medical affairs teams in this rapidly evolving environment?
Yeah, but the key for me is to believe in diversity and inclusiveness and build a really diverse and inclusive team or environment in general. Maybe 5 years, 7 years before, we were talking about accepting diversity, embracing diversity. Gone are the days. We need to proactively ensure diversity and leverage it very consciously to maximize performance and challenges and solve challenges. And diversity in its true sense goes beyond gender, race, nationality, sexual orientation, etc. For
Interesting.
me, diversity in educational background, experiences, skills, leadership strengths, perspective, personality types is also very important, probably more important. And the only way to leverage this diversity is to build an inclusive environment and an environment where every thought is valued and duly considered. So for me, this is the recipe for overcoming challenges and building high performance teams.
And that's a very interesting point when you mentioned that diversity. Most of the people, on a hindsight, think that it's all about sex, race, ethnicity, but it's more about even their profiles. And that's one of the key messages, perhaps, I would be taking out from this particular podcast. Now, technology is transforming medical affairs. We have been talking about it, especially with the whole Gen AI thing coming into picture. A lot of buzz around AI. So, how do you see this digital health, AI, data analytics, reshaping the stakeholder engagement and eventually the patient outcomes?
Yeah. So lots of organizations are trying to grapple with how to utilize technology better. So currently, we are trying to keep pace with the developments and revolution in digital data space and utilizing tools. We are doing the same things we have been doing, though we are doing it now more efficiently slash effectively. So our medical education initiatives can now reach more HCPs, probably in a customized way at the time and date they want, on demand, as we say. We now gather scientific insights and inputs from a much larger pool of experts to strengthen our strategy as compared to let's say the advisory boards that we used to do 5 years back. We are now equipping physicians with diagnostic and screening tools that are more technologically driven, so it becomes more accurate and point of care. All engagement with scientific leaders and more customized now. So we are doing the same things, but more efficiently and effectively. But moving forward, I think we have to be far more disruptive as an industry. And I feel there are three important call outs here, which I would like to share if you're okay, Amit.
Oh, absolutely, sir.
So, what is patients? There is an urgent need to empower patients and increase their voice in clinical decision making, their voice in healthcare policy shaping, and their voice in biopharmaceutical industry strategy. Similarly, uh, the next set of stakeholders is scientific leaders and healthcare practitioners. So, medical affairs outreach has been limited to a handful of scientific leaders, but we need to reach a much larger pool of physicians, including them in making guidelines, policies, etc. And third is related to demonstrating value. We as an industry are experts in demonstrating value to institutional payers, like to MOH, like to insurance agencies, etc. But we have hardly made any effort in demonstrating value to patient as a payer in self-pay market. So we have to go beyond talking efficacy, safety. We have to demonstrate value. And by doing these three, we are doing what we just discussed. We are being more inclusive here. And inclusivity is key to address this inequity in access to healthcare. And technology can definitely help us do these three things in near future.
Rightly said, sir, because we always talk about the patient centricity in healthcare. And if we can actually bring about an ecosystem that eventually brings value right at a patient level, I guess that is something which all the stakeholders eventually expect out of the whole system.
With my aspiration is that patients should be included in the guideline authoring committee.
Such things have started happening. Like we talk about now, the plain language summaries, which are targeted to the patients. Each manuscript that is being published, it also accompanies a plain language summary, so the patient can understand what's there in this particular research paper. Otherwise, he will think that it's all jargon. And then
Yeah.
eventually, you rightly said, involving patients at a guideline level. I guess that is something which has started happening in Europe and US, and I'm pretty hopeful that it's going to get picked up even in India as well.
Yeah.
That's a great point. So, there is always a controversy when it comes to medical affairs and then the commercial side of it. So balancing commercial objectives with, with a broader goal of improving public health can certainly be very complex. So how you actually navigate this balance, particularly in the emerging markets?
I think it's important to understand that we work for a profit-making organization, and making profit is not bad. It's a sustainable way of doing things.
Absolutely.
Charity is not a sustainable way. Grants, donation is not a sustainable way. So the
Totally
only
understand.
sustainable way of doing things is doing good and doing well, which means making profit as well. And most of the big biopharma organizations, or even mid-sized and small biopharma organizations, in summary, I would say that all the functions in organizations I've worked for, while they have different objectives, the objectives are very much aligned. Our perspectives are different, but overall goal is to reach as many patients as possible in a profitable manner. The
True.
extent of profit may vary in Africa as compared to the US, but it has to be profitable. It cannot be charitable. People have clear understanding of and respect for the value each functions bring to the table. A very basic principle, conceptual understanding that profit making is not bad and is the only sustainable way to drive change. At the same time, being responsible and patient centric is the key, I guess.
Undoubtedly, businesses who don't make profit, unfortunately, even if their intention is good, they are not going to thrive. So that's a clear message that profitability has to be there, even though the main focus is on the patient centricity. Sir, when it comes to like medical affairs, so there are so many functions that they have to juggle: internal stakeholder management, external stakeholder management. So when we talk about this collaboration, it's highly essential in today's healthcare ecosystem. So how do you foster these kind of partnerships between, say, pharma companies, healthcare providers, and the governments?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we have a major gap here. The gap may be more in certain markets, less in other markets, but by and large, the gap is significantly wide. And the reasons that I can think of include inadequate trust between public stakeholders and private stakeholders. They like to work separately, even though we have been talking about public-private partnership, but we have very, very, very few successful examples. The other reason I can think of is disjointed efforts across various subsegments. For example, health insurance work on their own priorities, pharma industry works on have their own priorities, agnostic have a different way of thinking, and so on. So the efforts are disjointed. Internally focused industry associations. So I've been a part of few industry associations, and most of them talk about welfare of their own industry or own sector. And I think that's a negative trap to be in. We can thrive only if the overall healthcare landscape thrives.
True.
Then limited voice of patients is another reason, again, which is something we have already discussed, and highly fragmented healthcare delivery system in emerging markets. So these are challenges which makes fostering sustainable, productive collaboration quite challenging. And in my experience, we have had a few successful partnerships, either with government stakeholders or with other sectors. And in all such successful examples, there was one common factor, one common theme, which is a shared ownership of the problem. If we have ensured that, other things tend to fall in place relatively easily. But we must understand that's a common problem that we collectively need to address.
As they say that one can win a fight if fights alone, but one can actually win a war
Yeah.
if the efforts gets combined. All the stakeholders need to work towards a common goal, keeping patient at the center of the healthcare. Very interesting, sir. We're talking about the role of medical affairs. We have seen last decade and how things have changing now. It's evolving very rapidly, significant over the years. So how do you see it changing in the next decade, say particularly in the region like EMEA, where you are currently quite active?
So I would say EMEA is the most challenging region, not only from a biopharmaceutical industry perspective, but also for medical affairs perspective. The reason I'm saying so is it's the largest region in terms of area, it's the largest region in terms of population, and of course, in terms of disease. But unfortunately, it is the most underserved region from healthcare perspective. Biopharma industry hardly does any business in India region. Less than 1% of their business or less than 2% of their business
Yeah.
comes from this largest region, largest population, largest disease burden geography. So that's unfortunate. Also, there are some other unique factors. Healthcare priorities in this region are somewhat different from other regions, with more focus on infectious disease, vaccine preventable diseases, and maternal child health. So the nature of morbidity is also a bit skewed, particularly in Africa, not so much in Middle East or Eastern Europe, but in Africa, yes. But there are some positives as well. And one of the positives, which is very different from other regions, is that external stakeholders are very eager to partner with biopharmaceutical industry, including MOH, regulators, academic institutions, private hospitals, NGOs, scientists, etc. They are very, very eager to collaborate. They understand the value that industry can bring in. And I guess medical affairs has an advantage here because I feel this function is in the best position amongst all to take a lead and build such partnerships.
And with this background, the next question is somewhat connected. That looking ahead, what are the most exciting trends and opportunities in MA functions over the next 5 years that you foresee?
So I would rather talk about exciting trends and opportunities in industry in general and not medical affairs
Sure.
because and I'll also add a medical affairs perspective to my response. So the most exciting trend I would say is mRNA technology. I know it's like 4 years old now, but that's current application is limited to vaccines and specifically COVID vaccine. But mRNA technology has the potential to develop vaccines for even diseases of non-infectious origins, including cardiometabolic and malignancies.
Right.
And so this is for me is the most exciting trend, and I firmly believe that this will be a game changer when we will be able to either prevent or diagnose and treat diseases at much earlier stage than we are doing today. And in terms of opportunity, I love the innovation that's happening in biologic space, but it comes along with some disadvantages. Biologics are expensive to produce, very expensive to produce. Even after LOE, the cost of production is high, which translates into high cost to the payer and patients in emerging markets. Biologics, the systemic cost of administration is also high for biologics as compared to oral. You need to visit a hospital, caregiver need to accompany, and so on and so forth. And the manufacturing of biologics is also difficult to standardize. So after LOE, let us say if there are 10 organizations who want to produce it will be very difficult to expect the same standard across all the manufacturers. So the opportunity I see is developing small molecules for the same targets that are being used to develop biologics. It's not theoretical, it's not aspirational, it's very much feasible. I know there are some disadvantages with small molecules as compared to biologics, but the advantages, particularly in emerging market, can really outgrow the advantages, or kind of it's much bigger than the disadvantages of oral molecules.
With the whole discussion around biosimilars, we keep on listening that the kind of processes that they need to follow are getting the same product, the batch challenges. I think if the whole thing gets switched over to this small molecule thing, as you just mentioned, it could be perhaps quite a path-breaking thing that could happen. So, sir, what key advice would you share with aspiring medical affairs professionals looking to step into these kind of leadership roles the way you have done it?
I would urge people in medical affairs not to think of themselves as scientific experts, not to think of themselves or ourselves as someone who is dealing with pure science. The primary objective of medical affairs team should be to move the access needle, to ensure as many deserving patients as possible receive the drug that they deserve. And it is key that we collaborate effectively with internal stakeholders, different functions, as well as engage diverse set of external stakeholders to achieve this. And this includes scientific leaders, patients group, policy makers, research networks, others, private players in healthcare sector, etc. Apart from this, leverage diversity. That's a key leadership skill. Leverage technology. You can't escape it. Better embrace it. Better leverage it. And do not hesitate to experiment. You may fail 50-80% of time, but experimentation must not stop.
I just read it very recently that one should fail fast. So it's like you keep on
Absolutely, yes.
experimenting quickly, fail fast, and then get back. So the last question for today, if you could share one key message with our audience about the future of medical affairs, what it would be.
The future is bright, so that's in simple terms. The reason I say so is that medical affairs people have the unique privilege of understanding medicines, patients, and healthcare delivery system equally well. And that's a unique privilege to be in. And hence the importance of this function will continue to grow and the future is bright. And I foresee that this function will become the face of organization access efforts in markets.
Yeah, even I heard that a few of the HUR functions are now getting into the medical affairs function. So it was absolutely amazing to have you. This is our first ever podcast, and I hope you also had a pleasant experience. And with that, we would like to close this session. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. This is Dr. Amit Dang from Marksman Healthcare. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks for the opportunity, Ahmed. Bye-bye.